The interview may be over, but the conversation is only just beginning.
So grab a cuppa and join us in the lounge as we unpack the ideas, stories, and moments that stirred our buckets as we explore what they might mean for our families, our children, and ourselves.
This week, we're exploring insights from Andy Baker. Andy is a behaviour specialist, best-selling author, and host of the Able to Care podcast. For more than 2 decades, he's worked alongside parents, educators, and care professionals, helping them understand behaviour through the lens of empathy, curiosity, and human psychology.
Andy reminded us that scripts aren't facts. The stories we carry about ourselves, about our parenting, about what a good child looks like, and what a good parent should be, shape our lives far more than we realise.
So today we're talking about negativity bias, inherited beliefs, self-judgement, and the advice we'd both love to give our younger selves as mums.
And if you've ever found yourself wondering whether you're doing enough, being enough, or getting parenting right, this conversation is for you.
Welcome to Raising Kind Minds.
Because your voice today becomes their voice tomorrow.
Let's dive in. So let's have a look at some of the gems that he shared with us. And they're all so relevant to a parent, no matter where they are on their journey. And also to educators, because obviously it's all about the child, all about the behaviour, all about our awareness of ourselves and our understanding. Anyway, gem number 1, when he talked about the negativity bias. Now, we know, we teach this, we have a negativity bias. It's a perfectly natural part of the brain. You're holding the negativity bias.
Da, da, da.
Yep.
Hello, Crusher.
So our inner critic, obviously, leans towards that negativity bias, but he described it really, I loved this metaphor that he used, or description. I noticed the snake, not the flower. So in times where we didn't have necessarily our own homes, or maybe we were nomadic people, we are hardwired to notice the snake, not the flower. That keeps us alive.
Yeah.
I just thought it was brilliant. So this is why we actually need to, I think, be even kinder to ourselves these days, because the snakes aren't so obvious.
No.
And he did such deep diving around the schemas and expectations and the inherited belief systems and the stories we tell ourselves and what that means about us as a parent, what that meant about us as a child, and how we develop these things. So all of it tied together to highlight that we're likely to lean into that negativity bias. And we'll be looking for snakes all the time. So if we see our child misbehaving, we're more likely to notice it. And we have to actively start seeking the flowers out.
Yeah, look for the good.
Look for the good, as the lovely Rick Hansen would say. And that's where Booster comes in. Oh, hi, Booster. Our compassionate, our kind voice. And Booster's here to help us rebalance that negativity bias so that we can respond. And he talked about reacting and responding. We'll dive into that a little bit in a minute. But he talked about, well, can we learn to respond, take a pause, respond rather than be reactive? And of course, Booster's here to help children and their families, their carers, to remember, can I take a breath before I jump in to even just help the child? Actually, maybe that child, that struggle might be really helpful, just like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon.
Yeah, it's quite good to notice whether they, when when a child's doing a task, or even when I'm doing a task, am I struggling and not coping, or am I struggling and it's challenging and
Growing.
I'm growing? Exactly. Like the butterfly.
Yes.
So sometimes it's quite good just to observe, and knowing that you're there and available if required, but not to just jump in all the time.
And the temptation is we don't want our kids to struggle. We want them to have a life of ease and joy and happiness and play and whatever. And the simplest of things, like tying our shoelaces, I still vividly
Especially
remember.
with time, because usually it's just easier if I do it myself. Tie those laces or get out the door.
Get them to school, whatever. Yes, it's tricky. And of course, we need that struggle to demonstrate to ourselves when we're little people, we can do it. We are capable. So, yes, I mean, it was a really great reminder of, we're hardwired. We've got that programming. Negativity bias happens. The threat now isn't snakes. It's actually a threat to our self-concept more than anything. That's obviously what we look at with self-compassion, but also our ability to feel comfortable in our identity. So that's at work, being a capable manager or whatever we're doing in our work. And similarly at home, and if that gets threatened all the time because we see that, the Joneses' house is all perfect, the garden's manicured, and their children all seem to be terribly clean and tidy and polite and overachieving.
He talked about those Instagram scenarios, didn't he? The perfect family.
And all of those things can potentially be snakes to us. And then that feeds our inner critic, feeds Crusher, feeds our self-doubt and our ability to believe in our capabilities as a parent and are we doing it right? What did he talk about? That doubt and uncertainty. There was something there that I know really caught your interest. Can you remember the quote he said? Should have written it down.
I think maybe I've got it on my phone. I'll just have a quick look.
So I'll put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
But whilst you're looking for that, I think a great reminder to all of us that the snakes might be emails, it might be expectations from other family members, it might be pressures from the community, the neighbours, self-pressures. All of these things add up to a lot of snakes in your life, and we've got to, and what I mean by snakes is, of course, your negativity bias. And we lean into that. Could you find it?
I don't know if it's the exact quote. I did write down one of the quotes that really resonated with me is, if you're not okay, they're not okay. Which is not about the doubt, but...
It was about something about uncertainty. Anyway, we'll dig it out. We'll have a look. Scripts aren't facts. I thought that was another brilliant reminder. So what's a script?
I hadn't heard that phrase before in this context. So it was interesting to get him just to share about how these can be running our life as if they're the truth. As if they are.
So scripts are the stories we tell ourselves, and they're pre-programmed, they're automatic, they're often not conscious, they just run the show. Very much like Crusher can do. But these are sort of, he talked about, he's a product of his father's workaholism. So his dad was a workaholic. So he grew up in the environment that dad was never around. Dad was always working. And to be a good dad, you needed to be working 18 hours a day. to be a successful person, you need to be working all the time. To be
worthy,
good person, the whole good and bad, I think we'll dive into that later. That was really, really powerful. So he made up a story in his head through those filters that he was looking at his life from little, that this is how he needed to be respected, to be worthy. Now, it's not that his dad did anything wrong. He said his dad's a very nice chap. But what it led him to was this pushing, this striving, this need to prove all the time. And I'm sure many of us can relate to this. And we've got messages certainly in our Western culture, that we need to prove ourselves. We need to achieve. You can't just relax. You can't.
Got to be productive.
Because otherwise, yes, you're not being useful. And certainly I can relate to that very much. As a 70s baby, there wasn't any lazing on the sofa. Go out and go and do something useful. So that was either go and play, but not lie around, go outside, do anything other than look like you're relaxing. And I still really struggled to relax because of that. And it wasn't that my mum was a bad mum. It was just the culture we were being brought up in. Go and do something and be of service. We've joked many times, haven't we, about being a good brownie guide. And I loved being a brownie. We've talked about those badges.
But even that was wanting to achieve.
Do a good turn every day.
Yep.
Help other people. Keep the brownie guide law. Get those badges. Can you get as many badges as your sixer leader? And self-generating pressure. And our children, bless them now, not our children are a bit older, it's a difference, but certainly from what we're seeing in primary schools and younger, is their perception of pressures is even higher. This is why I believe we have such high rates of anxiety in our primary age children already. Now, we didn't even know the word stress when I was a child. In fact, I remember the first time my youngest said it coming out of primary school. I don't know what year he was in. I don't know. He must have been about 7 or 8 and saying, "Oh, I'm so stressed." And I remember my head sort of spinning around saying, "Pardon? How do you even know that word?"
How do you know the word, and why would you be applying it to yourself anyway?
Yes.
So,
are you worried there's not going to be food on the table when you get home? No. Are you worried that the school is going to burn down? No. What can you possibly be stressed about? But the reality is,
against learnt behaviour, isn't it?
And this is the language now. And I mean, he didn't have a phone, but there's a lot of children now that do have phones by the time they get to primary. And they've got something to compare themselves to. And talk about giving yourself some internal pressure, looking at the Instagram reel of, well, this child's got his own business at the age of 10. I know some children that have now published their own books, because you can.
Yeah. With
the right influence and support and whatever. And there's just this constant comparison, and we know comparison is the thief of joy. And it's tough. So back to scripts aren't facts. So the scripts, the stories we tell ourselves, they're not necessarily accurate, and they're not necessarily true at all.
And they're often not necessarily helpful.
Really not helpful. And so this is where Booster comes in. Can we take a look? Andy talked a lot about awareness, didn't he? And this is our first step in the Booster way as well. We need to be aware. We need to have that self-awareness. We need to start being curious, not judgmental. That's where Crusher comes in. And not being judgmental about how you may have perceived yourself, how you may be judging yourself, actually giving yourself an opportunity to assess with curiosity. Well, how curious. I wonder why I snapped at the kids then. Oh, how curious. I wonder why that one of my children just burst into tears, not making assumptions about things. Oh, I wonder why they've shut down and they're not, they've just taken themselves to their room. If we have that element of that willingness, that intention to be curious, rather than leaping into fix or to change or to make better or to correct, then there's this spaciousness, this opportunity for parents to actually give their child space to be curious together.
Mm.
And of course,
I think that's really helpful, actually, because if the parent or primary carer gives the child space, well, if they're curious themselves, I wonder what's going on here. And also the child then has the option of being curious, as you say. And they're not making anything right or wrong. It's just like, oh, what's showing up right now? I think actually Andy called it like just collecting data.
I love that. Yes.
It's just information. It's not good, not bad. It's just information. It's like, oh, so what's showing up now? What is, what's arising? How am I feeling in this moment?
Yes. And
it creates an opening to then for the dialogue to happen.
Yes.
With the parent or...
And behaviour becomes communication. It's actually a signal for something. We can start being curious about that rather than judging the behaviour.
Yeah. And also then the child feels seen, possibly heard if they're speaking about it. So there's that real connection as well that you get with those curious conversations.
Yes, so important.
One of the things I particularly enjoyed, had an aha moment regarding the, Andy was talking about empathy to our future self. And he gave this story. He said about setting ourselves up. He didn't say setting ourselves up for success, but certainly that was what I was thinking about. And he said, as an example, filling up with fuel in your vehicle at night so that you're ready for the next day, rather than, trying to get to work and then filling up with fuel and doing all of that and causing yourself unnecessary stress and distress maybe. And it made me think actually about setting ourselves up for success and what we could do just by thinking ahead. And I don't mean to next week you could think to next week or even next year, but just even for tomorrow. And in the past, it's quite good to plan your day for the following day, especially if you're running your own business or something like that. So you're not getting to your desk in the morning thinking, okay, so what am I doing today? It's like you already know.
Yes,
you hit the ground running in a good way, in a powerful way. So setting yourself up for success. And it made me think of a story that I was just having quite recently, that my brother lives in Christchurch in New Zealand, and in 2011 they had a pretty major earthquake with a lot of fatalities. And he had been, the day before the earthquake happened, he had been coming home from a road trip and he'd been away, and the fuel in his tank was fairly low. But he said, oh, that's okay. And he's pretty laid back, my brother. I'll get it tomorrow. I'll get it tomorrow. But then the next morning happened and the earthquake happened. And of course, there's a number of things that happen in a major earthquake, and often you lose power. And certainly fuel stations shut because of not only the electrics, but also the possible damaged fuel lines and all that sort of thing. So what he was able to do was he had to evacuate because of where he was living. The ground became like quicksand underneath his whole area. And so they had to leave, obviously, immediately. but he didn't have very much fuel in his car. So he managed to get his family into his car, and then they drove until they ran out. I'm feeling quite emotional thinking about it. They drove until they ran out of fuel. And then my sister-in-law's parents drove north to pick them up and met them. And they just had to leave the car on the side of the road because they were out of fuel. Man, I'm feeling quite emotional. Wow. But I'm so grateful, of course, that he was safe, and there was a lot of mental anguish from the earthquake, naturally, especially with so many people dying. But it really made me thinking today about setting ourselves up for success. If he had stopped, and what was interesting was that he thought about stopping. He thought, oh, no, just get home. Be easier just to get home.
Rather than many of us parents just
exactly at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, just let me get home and then I'll sort it out tomorrow. But what if we could set ourselves up for success and actually just sort things out that are easy to do? Darren Hardy says it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So if we just take a moment, it was really useful to think,
and
because we're like, setting ourselves up for our future self.
Yes, it's like clearing the path for our future self. But I mean, there's layers to this, isn't there? Because Andy talked about empathy to our future self. So if we can respond compassionately, kindly, gently, or supportively to ourselves, so that future self has that internal self-belief and confidence, even if we're making mistakes, even if we've, fallen down and, are struggling to get back up. I really love that idea of, well, what if we could clear the path with kindness so that there's less judgment knocking us off our path.
And I was thinking also, so Andy's talking about empathy for our future self. And I was thinking, if we could, our future self, give a message to our past self when I was a young mum, what message would I give? And I was thinking about this. What message would you give to your younger self as a mum?
Just relax.
That was mine as well. It's like I was so uptight trying to get everything right.
It's okay.
Whatever right was, actually.
Your boys are going to be okay. You don't have to make the perfect birthday cake. Gosh, the hours I spent on birthday cakes. Stop comparing yourself to other people who are not in the same situation as you. Having girl children and boy children, and I don't want to stereotype, but some of my friends had 2 girls, I had 2 boys. It was just different. And, I had to take my boy children to the park 3 times a day. Otherwise, they'd literally climb the walls. And they weren't being bad children. They weren't being naughty. Their energy needed to move in a different way to some of my friends who had girls. And I was just exhausted so much of the time. So yes, relax, trust yourself, trust that actually you're doing a good job. Be gentle with yourself. You berating from in Buddhist terms, they talk about the second arrow. And so it's hard enough, right? You're exhausted, you haven't had enough sleep. The boys are bouncing off the walls. And that's hard enough. But if I pick up another arrow and thrust it into my chest because I'm so busy beating myself up that I'm not being a good enough mum, and I should be able to stay calm, and I should be able to handle my eldest not eating what's on the plate, even though I'd spent ages chopping up those vegetables super small so they could be, consumed.
Camouflaged.
But giving him goodness and nourishment and all the things I was trying so hard. That second arrow is actually causing us way more suffering than necessary. We don't need to take the second arrow out. Don't pick it up. You're doing great. You're doing your best. Just give yourself a break, and it won't matter. I used to be in tears when their dad got home in the early days. I'm so sorry, I still haven't done the washing up. I've had all day. And the judgment, I was a really capable human being. I could run classrooms and do, lots of children and all of this. I've got these 2 little ankle biters and I can't do the washing up. I haven't. Are you kidding? That's that was a quite loud crusher. And I was so disappointed with myself. How can I not have done the washing up? Because I like, it's a high value of mine to keep things ordered and clean. And, their dad had worked hard all day, deserved, to have a meal when he got home. And that sounds very 1950s, but that was the situation that we were in. I stayed home with my boys when they were little. And I felt an utter failure some days because my expectations were such that I should be able to do this. Actually, what if I looked again through a compassionate, a booster lens and said, actually, you've been present with your boys.
Yeah.
You've been playing with your boys. You've taken them to the park because they need that fresh air. They need to run around. You have fed them. They're ready for bed. They're in the bar. They've had their pajamas. They're clean and all of that.
And they're alive.
But we're back to the snakes and the flowers. I'm looking at the negativity. The negativity bias is way too loud. So yes, golly, if I could have my time again and just to reassure her that actually your boys are fantastic, that they're going to be fine, whether you wash up or don't manage the washing up, whether the house is a pickle or not. Their dad wasn't judging me at all. He was amazing. But that internal dialogue is so self-destructive. Please put down the stick. Don't do that to yourself. That second arrow is not helpful. What about you? What would you say?
Well, I think I was, I was pretty laid back, maybe too laid back for the first year because I really had no idea what I was doing. And so I didn't beat myself up because I didn't know what the rules were. I had quite a very premature baby, and therefore I hadn't done all of the preparation that I was planning on doing. So I was then just thrust into it, so I was just then being a mum rather than I hadn't had time to read the books. And so I just sort of went with the flow. What I did find though was when my son was just over 1, I moved from New Zealand to the UK, and I found that really, really isolating. And so then, so I really feel for mums, particularly, or dads who are isolated in their environment. And so I found myself in the UK and I didn't have any friends. And because I wasn't in the system with a young child, all of the play groups and all of that sort of thing, I didn't know what the language was, I didn't have the rule book for my local environment. And yeah, I found that very, very tough indeed.
And he talked about that isolation, didn't he?
It was really...
And how the isolate, we're not brought up in the tribe anymore. We don't have, one of our other guests, Aisha, in Pakistan, says there's still a really strong extended family.
Yes.
Now, there's pros and cons, no doubt, to all of these things. But I really, my mum moved away as soon as I think I got pregnant. It's like, no, don't move away. I need you now.
Well, and I think that that's why it's so useful now with all these different online communities. So when my son was little, or certainly when I moved to the UK, there was we had the internet, but we didn't have any, not that I was aware of, parent forums or local parent groups. There's so many different pockets of community activities now. There seems to be a group for anything that you're possibly interested in. And so if you just want to do meetups and things like that.
And there's a lot more awareness now. There's family hubs that are happening. I know there's lots of children's charities that are actively focused on those early days, making sure that mums, dads, carers, families are not isolated in the way that we're really recognising, obviously, the damage that COVID did. So how important that is. And I can't encourage families enough. Please go and connect. It feels a bit awkward, and
it does,
especially if you're quite shy. But just to have someone else, to have that common humanity. Me too. Oh gosh, yes. My son throws up straight as soon as he's in his tide.
And I think that was what I found really tough in particular, being so isolated. Sure, I could ring up, speak to my mother, or my sisters-in-law, but that was an expensive conversation. They lived on the other side of the world, and so
yes, we didn't have WhatsApp then.
No, we didn't.
Oh, we all sounded like dinosaurs.
And I think it was that isolation because everything got amplified or magnified. Well, first of all, it was magnified, and then it was amplified, and so therefore I could easily go on the fast train to Crusherville when it came to my parenting, especially if things were not going smoothly. And I didn't know who to ask or what to do. So
yes, you've got no other human to say and to normalise it.
To bounce it off. There's no common
I was really lucky. I had this really, really, she's still a really good friend of mine now. That's how deep the connection was. And Ali had 2 boys. Actually, she ended up having 3. And we would cry laughing at the, oh, me too, because it was just chaos. And to have that other person and to let the boys run around the garden and then just, crazy stuff happening. And it was such a tonic, and it normalised the, oh yeah, this is bonkers. And they're just being boys.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And yes, that connection was so valuable. Now, I know we need to wrap up in a minute because the time, gosh, I could talk about so many things Andy has shared with us, but there was a few really, really important things that I want to underline.
Sure.
One of them, he said near the end of the episode, and if you haven't seen the episode, we really highly recommend it. Andy really knows his stuff, and he's been through a huge amount personally. And he talked about, from the moment that there was a very scary incident at the age of 16, all the way through. But modelling so important. And he helps people learn the skill of actually how you show up as the adult in the room is going to positively impact, well, hopefully positively, depending on how you're showing up, but it will impact the child. They are like sponges. They will mimic you. They will copy what you do and less of what you say you should do. So I thought it was really great that he underlined how important that role modelling was. So he said, obviously he learnt from his dad and he became this, he didn't name himself as a workaholic, but he's very, very driven still. He works very, very hard, and he felt that was, that's what he witnessed. So to be aware of that. So if you can pause, be curious, have intention, to be present, have that presence with your child, listen, and also demonstrate what self-compassion, what being kind to yourself when you've had a tough day actually looks like.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break.
Even just talk about just having a breath, didn't he?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be an hour in the bath, which might feel so impossible, especially if you've got a little one.
Well, you certainly don't get an hour piece in the bath.
Exactly. But just catching a few breaths, having these.
Agreed. Gosh, there were so many gems, but I think we should close on the fun one. He reminded everyone to have fun, to play. We need to play, people, which is why we've got our friends here to play with. It's amazing how many of our graduates, our adult grads without children, want to play with Booster and Crusher, and they talk in terms of Booster and Crusher because they can relate to them.
Yeah,
we don't lose our innate joyfulness and zest for life because we get older, because we're in grown-up clothes. It's in there, and I love that he encouraged all the listeners, the viewers, to play, relax, lighten up. Oh, lighten up would probably be how I'd say it. Lighten up, Kathryn, if you only you'd look. And to play with your children, but also be playful with yourself and not take yourself too seriously. The parenting, you're making sure your kids are safe and they've got what they need. It will all literally come out in the wash.
Well, he also suggested a game, when you're playing with a balloon and you're trying to keep it up.
Keepy uppy.
Keepy uppy. Is that what it's called? And
makeup.
I thought that might be a really good one for this summer for the family party.
Oh,
Don't
yes.
necessarily have to wait for a special occasion, but that's what occurred to me. I thought, I think I've got like to do a little balloon keepy uppy.
Keepy uppy. It's, what else are you going to call it? Yes. So stop taking life too seriously. Easier said than done. I know, when you want your child, you want to.
Well, you have to be intentional about it as well, don't you?
Yes.
Remember.
But I think some of my happiest memories is sitting on a very, very small little chair at a very, very small little table, playing Play-Doh with my boys and sticking Play-Doh that Auntie Dorothy made through the sieve, making funny, hairy things, and then so simple.
Yeah.
And it's still, to this day, one of my happiest memories. Just
playing. And actually doing an activity like that is a bit like driving in the car. So you can have great conversations.
Yes.
Because the attention's not, you can have these curious conversations, but while you're doing an activity, so you're busy with your hands. And that's why actually this colouring in book, The Voices in My Head, the colouring book, is so good because you can just be gently colouring in together, side by side. And no spotlight on the child, no spotlight on any difficult situation, but you can actually read the words in the book. The tough situation, the crusher situation, and where does that happen in your world? What's happening in your life?
Yes.
And you can it's like driving in the car, like I said, so great conversations there too.
Yes. Staying curious. Opening the door to those curious conversations. Love it.
Wow. Brilliant episode with Andy.
Yes, thank you, Andy Baker. He's got some great books out there, especially if you are working in the caring professions as well. If you're experiencing family with dementia, that was his best-selling book just been launched, and he's got another one coming out too to help business people. So there's so much he has to offer. He has such a vast experience, but his wisdom around how we navigate being human, I think, is absolutely brilliant. Thank you for spending this time with us.
And if there's one thing we'd love you to take away from today's conversation, it's this. You don't have to believe every story your mind tells you.
Sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do is pause, get curious, and ask, is this actually true?
Before we leave you, here's a question to carry into the rest of your week. If your future self could sit beside you right now, what would they thank you for?
And if today's conversation got you thinking about the voice inside your own head, we'd love you to join us for Friday's guided meditation, where we'll help you experience this week's theme in a practical and profound way.
And if you know a parent, carer, teacher, or maybe a friend who could benefit from this conversation, please do share it with them. Word of mouth is how we grow this community, and we'd love to have them join us.
And if you haven't already, do follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Here's to raising kind minds.
Starting with your own.